We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Time for a little Tar Heel recap. My name's Jones Angell. That, of course, is Adam Lucas, and we've got a bunch to get to. Thank goodness that we are brought to you by Wells Fargo. Thank goodness we have our Lenovo tablets here to help us keep up with all our information. Adam, let's get to it. We'll start with Carolina men's basketball. It has not been a fun week for the Tar Heels. Adam, of course, the losses to Pitt and Duke last week, followed up by a defeat on the road at Wake Forest on Tuesday night. A game that was two totally different games within the game, but the only game that mattered was the first half. Carolina was outscored by 22 points. Hubert Davis afterwards said he saw nothing resembling Carolina basketball in the first 20 minutes. The team was made aware of that afterwards with a 45-minute team-only meeting in the locker room after the game. And feels like this season has hit a very key point, Adam, where the Tar Heels can go one of two directions.
Yeah, Wednesday is going to be an off day for the Tar Heels, for everybody to process what happened on Tuesday night in Winston-Salem. Jones used the word distraught on the air when talking about the conversation he had with Coach Davis after the game. Thought that was pretty accurate. You could tell Coach Davis was just bothered by the way Carolina played, not so much the being down by 22, but the way they played or maybe didn't play. Now, I do think, as I laid awake at night thinking about that loss, as I often do, the second half, Carolina did score 60 points using some different personnel, outscored Wake by 15. That second half looked much more like Carolina basketball, but it's hard to know how much to attribute that to the fact that Wake had a giant lead and had taken the foot off the gas pedal. So no more taking the foot off the gas pedal for the rest of the season for the Tar Heels. They now are in a dicey spot at 7-6 in the ACC. Got some work to do as far as postseason resume.
Adam, there are plenty of outside factors that can be discussed and are being discussed by Carolina, of course, but on the court itself, one of the big issues for Carolina right now is the lack of balance offensively. The Tar Heels just can't seem at the moment to get a quality outside attack to match up with what they can do down low, primarily with 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏. And without that consistent outside shooting, it's making things much harder in the paint. So those two things right now, not the only issues, but that is a major issue right now for the Heels.
Well, and at the beginning of the year, it felt like the outside shooting struggles were just a temporary thing or a little bit of a slump. We're pretty far into the season now. We're almost 25 games in. This may be what the Tar Heels are. These last three losses, they're 16 for 72 from three. You just can't win many games like that, and you also can't open up the inside for 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that way. So the Tar Heels got to find some other way to get the ball in the basket from the perimeter. We saw on Tuesday how effective Wake Forest was using multiple shooters around that three-point line. It stressed out the Carolina defense. Tar Heels aren't stressing many defenses right now.
Big game coming up on Saturday. Carolina is back at home against Clemson. That's a 2 o'clock start. We'll be on the air at 1 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. Let's move from the men to the women's team. They are playing well, even though their last game did not go the way they wanted. Had an 8-game winning streak snapped with a tough loss at Louisville on Sunday. And Adam, Tar Heels down 2 starters in this game. 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, neither played. And while certainly they're not going to use an excuse, that was a game they led in the third quarter and that eventually slipped away. But certainly missed those two in that contest against the Cardinals.
Yeah, and Louisville's a tough place to play. They had a great crowd, over 10,000. Carolina had the lead in the third quarter, but then Louisville went on a big run and things got very frenetic. Tar Heels down 2 starters and having to use some younger players, didn't maybe handle the circumstances quite as well as they might maybe a month from now. But it's hard to win in the ACC on the road without 2 starters, especially starters as key as Eva Hodgson and 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, someone who not only is important to the Tar Heels, but also has gotten some national recognition, along with, of course, 𝗖𝗍𝗍 Kelly.
Yeah, both of those players on the midseason Naismith Trophy team. That's whittled down to 30 players, so those two both on that list. Congratulations to them. The women's team at Syracuse tomorrow. That's Thursday, and that finishes a stretch that's been tough. They've gone through a 5-game stretch, 4 of which have been on the road, and that concludes that stretch. The matchup with Syracuse. Tar Heels down to 5 games in the regular season after that Syracuse matchup. 3 of them are at home, plus difficult road trips to NC State and Duke. So still some big-time matchups to come here down the final weeks of the regular season for the women. All right, let's head to lacrosse. Of course, men and women. Tar Heels a national contender almost every single year in both of those sports. This year, no different. The guys ranked number 17 in the country. They host Mercer to get their season started 5 p.m. on Friday night. And Adam, that game, by the way, available. You can stream that one on ACC Network Extra. And Adam, the guys have some big losses that they need to recover from as far as personnel losses from a year ago, but also have some key pieces returning.
Tar Heels searching for some offense as they have to replace Chris Gray, who's the all-time NCAA points leader. So looking for some goals up front. But then on defense, strong as got a graduate defenseman, Connor Mayher, a preseason All-America from just about everybody who covers lacrosse. So the Tar Heels will be strong in the back, but may have to win some low-scoring games here early in the season as they find that offense. And
of course, the women, the defending national champions, undefeated season a year ago. They are preseason number 1. They open on Saturday afternoon against what's always a good James Madison team. 2 o'clock on Saturday is that one. And Adam, speaking of needing to replace some good players, the women are certainly there, including National Player of the Year Jamie Ortega, who saw her terrific career come to a close last season. Also missing multiple All-Americas as well from the last several years, but no surprise, they've got a bunch of good players coming back too. Replacing those postseason All-Americas with a host of preseason All-Americas. Tar Heels have 7 players represented on the Inside Lacrosse All-America preseason team. We were lucky enough to have Brooklyn Newman come by and talk to us. You'll be able to see that interview tomorrow about what the Tar Heels are replacing from last year and what the strengths might be this year as Jenny Levy's team, once again, preseason number 1 in the country. Speaking of always contending at a national level, the Tar Heel women's tennis team starting the ITA Indoor National Championships on Friday. Ooh, let's look at the bracket. Everybody loves to look at a bracket there. They're the Tar Heels in the bottom right. They face what is always a good Pepperdine team in the initial matchup there in the round of 16. You see there Carolina, the 2 seed in this event. So that is 6:30 Pacific time on Friday, so 9:30 Friday evening on the East Coast for the women as they get going there. Other good teams on that side of the draw, you saw Texas A&M and Virginia. There's 3 ACC teams in that event. Tar Heels are a 3-time defending champion of the ITA Indoor National title. The guys start their ITA Indoor National title championship run on February 17th, so that's next week. That's in Chicago. That draw not yet set. We'll see that here coming up shortly. They're coming off really tough weekend in that they had a great performance in a shutout win over Illinois, and then against number 3 TCU got down to the final set of the final match and came up just short. They lost that 4-3, but the guys getting better with a young team will be competing in those ITAs coming up in the near future. Adam, let's go to swimming and diving, and Tar Heels gathering some hardware in that area. Tar Heel diving continues to be incredibly successful. Former audio podcast Emily Grunn, the ACC Women's Diver of the Week. She won the 3-meter event at the Virginia Tech Invitational. On the men's diving side, similar success. Alex Hart is the ACC Men's Diver of the Week. Tar Heel's just dominating Diver of the Week awards. If you throw in Aranza Vasquez, who's also a former podcast, she's won Diver of the Week 5 times. Anton Down-Jenkins has won it 3 times. So Carolina divers combined, Jones. If you add them all up on your Lenovo tablet and you do the math, 10 times Tar Heel divers have won ACC Diver of the Week. Diving teams had an incredible winter. There we go. I couldn't remember what season it was. You were going to get there eventually. Spring, winter, sometime. All right, let's finish it up with just some scatter shots here. Wrestling, ranked number 25 in the country. They're hosting Virginia Tech, who's ranked in the top 10. That is Friday at 7 o'clock. Gymnastics. Tough road trip to New Hampshire for an Eagle quad meet coming up this weekend. We will have the results of that on the audio pod early next week. Don't you worry about it. Fencing, hosting a 4-team meet at the Eddie Smith Fieldhouse. That is on Sunday. Men's and women's golf begin their spring season as well. The women just finished up in a big-time field in Guadalajara, Mexico. They finished 12th in that event. The guys, tough living. They're out in a tournament in Hawaii that gets started today, actually, and will go through the end of the week. That is the end of the show. We'll remind Adam about the seasons and the days and the months and all that. And then we'll see you next time on the Carolina Insider.